Okay, we're going to attempt to remove and explain how this terminal framework for a plate heat exchanger is assembled. Now this is a more modern design. This is the top part of the terminal, and there's a structure that goes below this to a lower port. So this is this whole structure is solid stainless, and it's about probably 250 pounds, but it's made of an assembly, and so there's 4 port gaskets on each side. The typical port gasket ring on the outside that's exposed, and then what most people don't see is, I'll try to zoom in, is there's a hidden port gasket in here. So there's a stainless ring, a spool piece here, and then another stainless ring. So there's a gasket that's pinched in this spool piece here. And so what happens is normal CIP, this gasket will start to swell up and break away, and you're left with a crevice in there, and that's probably the most dangerous part of this design, in my opinion. And so there was a design before this that had a solid plate. I don't know what this is, probably 1/2 inch thick, and it had over 32 or 30 of these socket head stainless screws with stainless pins or whatever in between. So you had to take apart most all of these socket head screws. Well, now you have to take off or loosen at least 4 here, here, and here. So this structure on this newer design, there's a stud bolt that's on this structure here where my hand is, and it's got a stud bolt sticking up. So this little triangular piece is screwed onto that framework, and then it's bolted to this plate. So you can see there's some machining in here. It's fairly to square everything up, I would assume. But to take this off, you have to be real careful, because this on this one here, it's notched on this side to accept a specific location for this shaft right here. But this side isn't notched, and so you need to make sure that these are extremely tight right here, because if they're loose and it jumps out of that little recess there, it's probably what, a 1/16. If it jumps out with all this weight and only that one screw holding on, this whole shaft will pivot up, and then this is hanging. All this weight is hanging from these 2 rollers here, and it'll come down forcefully, and you have to be careful. So it's in my opinion, it's a safety hazard. But anyway, let's say that we wanted to remove this port gasket. Got my Allen wrenches here. I think it's a number 10. Take that off. And we take this one off, and we would take this one off completely, this one off. Now, as you're taking these off, you have to be careful. I mean, these are through ports, but normally there's a big 4-inch port here sticking out with a tri-clamp on it, and these all pivot. So as soon as you start loosening these, it becomes a juggling act for these ports to get them out. So excuse the, I don't have anybody here to help me film this, but I'm going to take this off and expose the innards. So here we go. Here's this ring, and you can see I cut away at this gasket, but some photographs that I'll include show in the field that these deteriorate, obviously, and then it would push down to metal and or close to metal. So you dig that out, put in a new gasket and do the same here, and then orientate the port the way it needs to be, vertical. Well, it can't, most of the time it can't be vertical. It either has to be horizontal or at a 45. That's interesting. And then as you're holding all this together with probably multiple people, I'd want a safety officer there more than likely, or someone to at least strap this thing down. Put that on, this on, and then all the time you've got to hold all these pieces together. So I've got it with gravity right now, so tighten these down, and those two put in new port gaskets. Now these new gaskets have a little recess on the inside, so they're directional. And then put it back together. And yeah, like I said, if this comes out of that little recess and it's loose, this whole thing could come crashing down. So people don't like to open the frame as it is and to mess with the hidden port gasket, and to have a contamination or a crevice area is problematic. So that's what we got.